Good afternoon, sir. Can you see and hear us?
Yes, I can. And can you see and hear me?
We can, thank you.
Good.
Our next and final witness for today is Miss Janet Skinner.
With whom, of course, I met already. So nice to meet you again, Miss Skinner.
It is you too. So when?
You stand up. Okay. You just repeat after me. I do solemnly, sincerely and truly declare and affirm that the evidence I shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Thank you.
As you know, Miss Skinner, my name is Catriona Hodge and I ask questions on behalf of the inquiry.
Yep.
Please, can you state your full name?
Yeah, it's Miss Janet Louise Skinner.
Miss Skinner, you made a statement on the 16th of February of this year, is that correct?
Yes.
Do you have a copy of that statement?
I do, yes.
Could I ask you please to turn to the final page, page 6?
Yep,
Can you see your signature in the bottom half of that
I
page?
can, yeah.
Was the content of the statement true to the best of your knowledge and belief when it was
Yes.
made? I'd like to begin by asking you a few questions about yourself.
Yep.
Where in the country are you from?
I'm from Hull, Yorkshire.
And how old are you now?
I'm 51.
You have 2 children, is that
I
right?
do, yes.
How old are they?
33 and 30. I was quite young.
You joined the post office in 1994, is that
I did,
correct?
yes. The 20th of February 1994.
How old were you when you first started working for the post office?
30, I was probably 33, I think, at the time.
What was the role that you performed?
It was just I applied in the shop and because they'd put a notice in the window, they just wanted a counter clerk and it was just to cover the dinner hours, so it was just 10 till 2 because obviously my children was at school at that point, so it worked well, so it was between school times.
At this stage, were you an employee of the post office or a sub?
It was the actual franchises was owned by United News, but I believe there was actually owned by the Royal Mail at the time because it was part of the Royal Mail.
Can you please describe the branch where you worked?
It was on a council estate, so it was extremely busy all the time. Sometimes you didn't even have time to lift your head to actually see who you were serving. So you would get that engrossed in serving people that you would expect a woman's voice when you looked up and it was a man. So
Did you enjoy your work as a counter
loved it.
clerk?
Every day was a different day. You just never ever had 2 days the same. You sort of got used to the people that you were serving as well.
You described dealing with customers at the desk. In
Yep.
fact. Were you ever required to do balancing when you were a counter?
No.
You were later appointed as a sub-postmistress in 2002, is that
Yeah.
right? What attracted you to the role of a sub-postmistress?
It was. I wasn't actually a postmistress. I was just a manager at the time, and it was somebody who I used to work with. She was actually like a postmistress, and she was running a number of offices and overlooking a number of offices, and she offered me a job as the manager because I'd already worked from 94, so I sort of became a counter clerk, an assistant manager, and then a manager.
And which branch was that?
To be honest, I've worked in all of them all over Hull.
Is it right to say you did at some point become a sub-postmistress?
Yes, that was in 2004.
In 2004. And which branch was it that you...
That was the North Brandon, but I was actually postmistress to 2. There was another one which was on Bodmin Road, it was called, but that was closed about 6 months after my contract with them. It was closed due to the rejuvenation scheme that was put in place from the government to close so many offices.
Did you purchase the North Branson branch?
No. I worked, my contract was signed with the post office, so they paid me a fixed salary, and I just run it for them.
Were there other staff employed in the branch?
Yes,
How many?
3.
What was the salary that you received from the post office for running this branch?
4,000. I think it was either 4,500 or 5. I can't actually remember which one it was.
Is that per month?
Yeah,
or-
that was per month. So then I covered the, do you know, like the salary for the staff and the rent on the business itself.
Was the Horizon system installed in your branch when you took it over?
Yes.
Had you had any previous experience of using the system before you became a sub-postmistress?
Yeah, well, it was installed when I worked in an office called Grandale in Hull in 2000, and that's when I had the first sort of like protocol with the Horizon system itself.
What problems did you experience when using Horizon?
The Horizon system, it never balanced. It was either up or it was down. It was never spot on. I mean, when we first had it installed, I still used to use the normal ledgers, because obviously before the Horizon system was installed, you had your daily ledger and then you transferred all your daily ledger into a weekly ledger, and that's how you balanced. So then if anything was missing, you had everything in front of you that you could redouble check. So I carried on for a couple of months actually doing it that way, and it was balancing on my ledgers but not balancing on the Horizon, so it was never correct.
When you became a sub-postmistress, who was responsible for discrepancies?
Me. It was totally my responsibility.
When you experienced a apparent discrepancy or shortfall shown by Horizon, what did you do?
Well, you'd have to go through everything that you had on hand, like JARA things, and making sure your REMs have been done correctly. But the only thing you really had was what you had in front of you. And I think what the Horizon system installation did was it took away all of the paperwork that you had that you could check. So the only information you actually had available was what the Horizon system gave you.
And to whom did you look for assistance? when you had these
The
problems?
helpline, rung the helpline on numerous occasions. To be honest, when you rang them, it was like they was reading from a script. You could tell what they was reading was something, it was script written because of the way that it was said to you over the phone. And if they couldn't help you, they would just say, well, you just have to make it good yourself.
According to the judgment of the Court of Appeal Criminal Division, you contacted the helpline 116 times between the 1st of January 2004 and the 31st of January 2005. Is that right?
Yes.
What advice did you receive?
Basically the same. If the office was short, it was my responsibility to make good. That was wrong.
You've explained in your statement that matters came to a head in 2006.
Yes.
What happened?
The loss, my office was running at a loss of £40,000. I had a visit from 2 retail network managers. There's only one of them that I can remember her name, and it's Diane Oils. And when they came, I took them in the back, explained to them that my office was running at a loss. They asked if you could do a cash check while they was there. And then they said, well, what we'll do is we'll keep the office open, we'll just do a cash check. So I said, well, to be honest, I'd rather close it, have an audit and sort it out. So they did the cash check. We closed the office. They removed the keys from me and told me I had to meet them there the next morning at 9 o'clock with the auditors.
How did you feel when you were told to leave your branch?
Devastated, absolutely devastated. But I think I was more relieved as well, because I thought now obviously they're going to get to the bottom of what's gone wrong. I think you put your trust in them, because as they keep portraying themselves, the post office are a trusted brand, and their trust wasn't to find a problem, that it was to find a solution, and now is the solution.
You've described employees of the post office coming to your branch to
Yeah.
carry out an audit. What did they tell you about the outcome of that audit?
They just said that it was actually running at a loss of 59,000, and I was suspended without pay. I was searched before I left, and I was also informed that if I removed anything from the office, it would be classed as theft. So all paperwork, nothing. I couldn't move anything. It all became the property of the post office.
How did you feel when you returned home later that day?
I was devastated. Absolutely, everything just crushed. You just feel crushed.
What further inquiries did the post office carry out to get to the bottom of this apparent shortfall?
They interviewed the staff, and then to be honest, then nothing. They requested that I go for an interview the next day, which I got from a phone call after the audit.
Were you told you were going to be interviewed?
They just asked, somebody rang me and just said, would you attend an interview tomorrow? It's just a chat, it's not really, you don't have to bring anybody with you, but if you do bring somebody with you, they can't speak, and if they do speak, they'll be told to leave. So I attended a main post office branch on Bransholm the following day, and met with 2 post office investigators, Diane Matthews and Stephen Bradshaw.
Was it an informal chat, as you've been led to believe?
Well, they just said, I'd gone up the stairs and they said, oh, we're having a problem with the recording equipment. And across the road, about a 2-minute walk, there was a police station. Would you mind if we rang them and asked if we could use their equipment? So I said, do you know, no, I didn't have anything to hide, so I wasn't really that bothered about it. So we walked over to the police station, and then obviously they set up the recording, and then as soon as they started recording, they then cautioned me. So then I knew at that point that they was actually looking at me.
Before you were cautioned, had anybody told you that you were suspected of stealing this money?
No.
Can you please describe how the interview was conducted?
Their main point is, what did you do with the money? And at first I thought, do you know, if it's not me, I know it's not me. And so then I started thinking, could it be my staff stealing money? Because obviously the money's got to be going somewhere. But it was the same thing. I didn't have any proof that anybody else had stolen anything. And they just wanted to know what I was going to do about the losses.
How was the interview concluded?
They concluded the interview, said that they would be speaking to the staff. But at the end of it, Stephen Bradshaw did say to me, we've dealt with people who have stolen from the post offices before, and we know you haven't done anything wrong.
You've explained you were suspended by the post office on the date that, I was going to say the discrepancy was found, but you told them that there was a discrepancy showing in the Horizon system.
That was the 30th of May.
When did you discover that the post office was going to bring a prosecution against you?
I received a letter from them in August of 2006.
And do you recall the offences with which you were charged?
They said that they were charging me with false accounting and theft.
How did you plead to those charges?
The letter obviously stated I had to attend the Hull Magistrates Court, which I did with my legal representation, which was Carl Turner. And on the day, he said, they've offered you a plea bargain. If you plead guilty to the false accounting, they'll drop the theft. But to be honest, in hindsight, they had everything, access to my bank accounts anyway, so they knew that I actually hadn't stolen anything. But Carl had said, obviously, if you take the lesser charge, plead guilty to it, you won't get, because there's a good chance won't get a custodial sentence. So that's what I did.
Did you know at that time that there were others who'd experienced problems
No.
using Horizon like you?
No.
How old were your children at this time?
Um, my daughter was 17. And my son was 14.
What did you tell your children about the prosecution?
No. No, I didn't.
Why not?
Pardon?
Why not?
Because I didn't need them to worry about it. They was both going through school, and they just, at that time, like me, I didn't think we had anything to worry about.
You were convicted in the Crown Court upon your guilty plea.
Yeah.
Was your conviction reported in the press?
Yes, it was the front page of the whole Daily Mail.
What effect did that have on you and your children?
Well, I was already in jail when they did that, because it was published, I think, on the Saturday. I was sentenced on the 2nd of February, 2007. The Magistrates Court adjourned it to the Crown Court, and I attended the Crown Court in the January of 2007, and they wanted a probationary report done, which then laid it 4 weeks later. But the probationary report was not very good because I wouldn't admit I'd done anything wrong. They found me untrustworthy. So I was given a 9-month custodial sentence on the 2nd of February.
Were you aware when you attended court on the 2nd of February that you might be sent to prison?
No, I really didn't think I had, because to go to jail, you've got to have committed a crime. And if you can't prove that you've committed a crime, because I couldn't prove that I hadn't, and they couldn't prove I had, but yet I still went to jail.
Where in court were you standing when the judge read
In
out
the
your
dock.
sentence? What did the security guards do when the judge sentenced you to prison?
You stood in the dock and you said that he was giving me a 9-month prison sentence because of the amount of money that was involved, because I'd stolen from the Crown, and I had the gate lock. And then he told me that it was a custodial sentence. I'll be honest, I thought it was going to say suspended, but I didn't.
How did you feel when you were escorted out of the courtroom?
I was just an emotional wreck. I don't actually remember. The only thing I remember is being in the holding cell and then going to Wakefield Prison.
How were you transported there?
Well, they took me out in handcuffs, put me in one of those police transport things.
What happened upon your arrival at prison?
I was photographed, fingerprinted, told to remove my clothes so that they could strip search me. So they make it go stand behind the curtain and squat, and then put a mirror underneath to make sure you're not taking anything in with you.
Did you have an opportunity to speak to your children on your arrival into prison?
I was given a phone call there in the evening, and my daughter wouldn't actually speak to me because she was an emotional wreck, and I didn't want to speak to them, to be honest. I felt so ashamed. I was supposed to be their protector and show them what you do the right thing, but yeah, you do the right thing, and I went to jail anyway.
Were your children able to visit you in prison?
I didn't want them visiting me. It was the only thing I could control, and it was hard enough for me to have that memory of me being in jail. They weren't having that memory of me being in jail, so I refused to see them.
You were released from prison in April 2007 after
Yeah.
serving 2.5 months of your sentence, is that right?
Yeah, I was in Drake Hall as well after Wakefield. And then it was there I got released on the 12th of April.
What conditions were imposed on you?
I was put on tag 6 till 6 curfew, and that was till the August of 2007.
We'll shortly address the circumstances in which your conviction came to be quashed in April of last year. But I'd like to ask you a bit about the confiscation proceedings before we do that, if I may. After you were released from prison, the Post Office obtained a confiscation order against you, is that right?
Yeah.
And that was in the sum of £11,000.
Yeah, but that was for compensation. But they put that charge against my property that I earned at the time, but obviously due to the fact that I'd lost my job, I was unable to pay my mortgage. So my house was literally, I was fighting against the mortgage company to keep hold of it so that I could sell it, which is what I did. I ended up selling it, completing on the 31st of October 2007.
What happened as a result of the sale of your house?
The mortgage company had given me a huge penalty for settling the mortgage early, so there was actually no funds left for the Post Office to take.
What action did they take in relation to the £11,000?
Well, do you know what? Because I moved away from that house and I had to go into rented accommodation, I didn't actually get any mail because everything that was corresponding to the compensation was being sent to the house that I no longer owned. I only found this out because of Nick Wallace, to be honest, because of the investigation that he did with Panorama. All of the letters was being sent to my previous address.
When did it come to your attention that the Post Office
In June 2008, I was working on a temporary contract through an agency at a heating company in Hull. And a friend of mine rang me and he said, Johnny, you're in the paper. And I went, what do you mean I'm in the paper? So he said, apparently there's a warrant out for your arrest. And I was on the front page of the Hull Daily Mail, and it was for non-payment of compensation to the Post Office.
What did you do when you found out there was a warrant for your arrest?
I contacted the warrant officer. I can't remember his surname, but his name was Mike. And he asked... said obviously there's been some form of misunderstanding. Can you get proof of the sale? So I said, yeah, I can contact the solicitors. So I went to the solicitors, got a copy of the sale, and that's when I found myself that all of the actual money had gone to the mortgage company. And then I had to hand myself in to a warrant because I had to answer to the warrant the following day. So I had to go to Leeds Crown Court and hand myself in at 10 o'clock in the morning.
What happened when you handed yourself in?
They handcuffed me and put me in cells for the day. It basically told me I was looking at a 5-year jail sentence for non-payment of compensation.
How was that issue resolved?
Well, I was being tried for the same thing in 2 different courts because I also had to answer to the warrant in Hull Crown Court for the same thing. So then, obviously, my legal team had to then get the case combined because it was just one case, but I was being tried in 2 separate courts. But then I had to do exactly the same thing I'd done the first time round, was prove how much money I've got, prove my bank accounts. I had to borrow money because they wanted £1,500 off me within 14 days. So I borrowed the money off my ex-husband to pay it. And then the Post Office actually the prosecution was happy the fact that I hadn't had any money myself. So they settled it there and then. But the Post Office then kept that charge against me. So rather than going for the £11,000, they've gone for the £59,000, which is held against me personally. So if I come into any financial funds or anything, that they can take that money back off me. And to this day, I was talking about this outside, I've not actually received anything to say that that's been wiped. So, I mean, really, I could still owe that money to the post office and they could come after me for it anyway.
So you're saying that having brought confiscation proceedings against you for the £11,000,
Yep.
which related to costs, did it,
Yeah.
of the
I
criminal,
don't know, it was just compensation they was going for.
they then subsequently brought separate proceedings against you in relation to this alleged shortfall of £59,000?
Yes.
I'd like to ask you now a bit about the effect that all of this has had on you.
Mm-hmm.
What was the immediate effect on your livelihood of losing your post office salary?
Well, I lost my house. I lost everything. I couldn't get a job. I couldn't get a job, couldn't go for a job because I didn't know if I still had a job or they was going to find out what had gone wrong and reinstate me, which was a foolish thing to think. We just lost everything.
When you were released from prison, did you have difficulty finding work as a result of your conviction?
I didn't apply for any jobs until the tag was released. How can you go for a job interview when you've got a tag on your ankle?
What effect did it have on your health?
4 weeks after the court hearing finished in July 2008, I was working at this heating company and I said to one of my friends, so I don't feel right. She went, what do you mean? So I said, I just don't feel right. So we went to see the nurse and she said, if you don't feel right, go see your GP. So I went to see my GP. They didn't have anybody available, so they said, if you think it's an emergency, go to A&E. So she drove me to A&E. And by the time I got to A&E, the full trunk of my body had disappeared. It was like it was gone. It's like I couldn't feel that it was there. And I ended up in hospital for just under 4 months. I had fluid on my spinal cord in 3 separate areas, and it paralysed me from the neck down, and they told me I'd never walk again.
What had caused this to happen to your body?
It's just stress. My immune system was so low that my body attacked itself.
You did learn to walk again?
I did.
When did you start being able to stand and walk for yourself?
To be fair, they tried to get me on my feet as soon as possible because obviously my nerve endings was damaged. I have temperature problems. I can't feel the temperatures from my chest down. I can't feel pain properly. I have problems with my hands. I have chronic pain in my back all the time. If I took medication for it to kill it off completely, I probably wouldn't be sat here today.
And what impact has this had upon your ability to work?
I can't work. I just can't get a job because there's days when I can't even get out of bed. It's destroyed life. It's destroyed my life. But, do you know, I'm a fighter and I'll fight through things.
How have your children been affected by what happened to you?
Do you know, we don't speak about it. And we genuinely don't speak about it. And we never speak about me being in jail. It's just easier not to talk about what's happened rather than to keep going over what's happened.
You've described reporting of your conviction in the press.
Yeah.
How is your standing in the community affected by your prosecution and conviction?
People whisper. You always get the people that say, oh, what did she do with the money? You can see she's lived a high life. And because you obviously live in a nice house or you drive a nice car, people just assume that's what you've done.
When did you discover that you were not the only sub-post mistress to have experienced problems with her?
It was to do with Seema Misery's case. I heard about her case on the news. So I contacted Shoesmith's solicitors and they put me in touch with the JSFA and that was in 2011, 2012.
How did you feel to discover that others have been affected like you?
At first, I was angry, but I was also relieved, because it was good to know that, although you don't want this to happen to anybody, but it was good to know that it was happening to other people as well.
You were one of the 555 claimants in the group.
I was also a part of the mediation scheme as well, which was 147, which was from 2012 to 2015, and was shut down by the post office because of the second type report that they didn't like.
Did you receive any compensation as a result of the mediation scheme?
No, the post office refused to mediate me.
Why was that?
I don't know, they just didn't feel that I had a case to be mediated. That was during the mediation scheme in 2015.
What steps did you take to overturn your conviction?
Well, I joined the GLA, so I was part of the group litigation, and then when we won the group litigation in 2019, I'd already submitted my case to the CCRC in 2015 anyway, but because of they wanted outcomes of the GLA, obviously because we won 6 judgments in total, they then waited 5 years before they would make a decision, and then obviously then they referred my case to the Court of Appeal.
When did you discover that your case was being referred to the Court of Appeal?
24th of March 2020.
Your conviction was quashed on the 23rd of April.
It was, yes.
On both grounds.
Yes, which myself, Tracy and Seema all decided to take for Limb 2, and we had an excellent legal team, Paul Marshall, Flora Page, Nick Gold. I mean, them two barristers almost had their careers trashed because of Brian Altman, who brought contempt of court hearings against him.
How did you feel when your conviction was quashed?
Absolutely elated. Do you know what? If I could have bottled that experience on that day and the joy that it brought, I would have just kept it.
Who was present with you at the time when you discovered?
Tracy, Seema, Flora, Paul was isolating, Nick was there, Dev was there. The majority of the people in this room was there, to be honest.
Was your daughter with you?
Yes, she was. Yeah, that was a special moment. That was.
Why was that important to you?
Because I've protected them from me for such a long time, and then to be able to share that day, it's just amazing.
How do you now feel, after everything you've gone through, about the way that you were treated by the post office?
I don't really want to say that, to be honest. It wouldn't be a nice way of putting it.
Do you think that more needs to be done?
Absolutely. Do I sit here and think if it hadn't been for the fact that we fought for ground Limb 2 and won Limb 2, would this inquiry have its statutory power? Or would it just be in another inquiry that would have just gone through the process and then nothing comes back from it? Too many people are involved in what's gone wrong. Either it be within the government, the Royal Mail, the post office, the legal system, the defences, the legal teams. So many people that have wronged all these people and destroyed so many people's lives. We need answers from it.
I don't have any further questions for you, Ms Skinner. Is there anything you'd like to say to the chair that we've not already covered in your evidence?
People think that we're here because of money, and people automatically think that all we're bothered about is compensation. The only thing that compensation will ever change is our financial stability. We've got a life sentence for what's been done. We will never erase memories of what's happened over these past 20 years. And we've got to live with that. But yet you get the people at the top who just basically said, I'm sorry, we made a mistake. You made a mistake by destroying people. Do you know, Seema was right in what she said. There is a split between them and us. So why is it the people at the top think they have more power? What makes them above the law, above anybody else? If we break the law, we get penalised. They're breaking the law and nothing comes of it.
Thank you very much, Ms.
Thank you.
Skinner. Sarah, are there any questions you'd like to ask Ms. Skinner?
No, I don't want to ask her any questions, but I would like to say a few words to her. She was one of the first people I met when we were a non-statutory inquiry. It was you, Mr. Pound, and Miss Arch, was it not?
It was, yes.
And you told me then something of what you said today, and you set me on a train of investigation which still has a long way to go. So thank you very much for participating in the way that you have in all phases of this inquiry.
Thank you.
I think, too, I want to say something directly to the lawyers who assisted the three witnesses today. When I made my opening remarks 10 days ago now, I thanked the lawyers who had assisted the people who had provided witness statements and who were going to give oral evidence. And that was addressed, obviously, primarily at that time to the lawyers who were in the room. And I don't think Mr. Gold or Miss Page or Mr. Marshall were in the room. So I'd like to tell them publicly that I'm very thankful to all the lawyers who've assisted the people who've had so many difficulties over the years. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. That concludes our evidence today and this week. We will be resuming in Cardiff on Tuesday.
Yes, and in advance of you all coming to Cardiff, Croeso I Cymru, or Croeso I Gymru, I'd forgotten my mutation, and I will see you all in Wales.